Is this on?
Vote Leave tomorrow. Spread the word.
If you jump out of the aeroplane, you cannot clamber back through the cockpit hatch.
At times, it was hard to pick out fact from fiction.
We can take back control of £350 million per week, over which we have no control at the moment.
Our lifestyle is safer inside the European Union than in splendid isolation outside it.
We will restore power to the people of this country.
I'm an English literature student. I know waffling when I see it, okay? I'm sorry.
And we can win on June the 23rd. Don't you think so? Yes, we can.
That is Project Hope.
The result set Britain on a road to a crisis.
We must now prepare for a negotiation with the European Union.
Brexit means Brexit.
The Prime Minister's deal was rejected before it even reached the House. Its delay puts Britain in uncharted territory. A nation split, left wondering what will happen next.
With British politics in freefall and Brexit in turmoil, I've decided to go on a road trip around the UK and Ireland.
You know, it's been 2.5 years since Britain voted to leave the EU, and since then Brexit has become such a way of life, even down to the way that we talk. You either in, you're out, you voted leave or remain, you're a Ramona, a Brexiteer. The backstop, customs unions, transition periods. Britain became split. And if you think that the passage of time has healed that, you'd be very wrong.
Downing Street says Theresa May will bring her Brexit deal back before the House of Commons before the 21st of...
This is one of the biggest wholesale markets in Europe. It supplies fresh produce to restaurants and hotels, here, Europe and around the world. The key thing about this place is everything has to be fresh. If Britain crashes out of the EU without a deal, the supply could be held up at ports. By the time it gets here, it could be worthless.
Our biggest problem will be paperwork. If things get delayed, our shipment gets delayed, and we're trading with no flowers, so we need free movement, and it will affect us.
What's at stake for you if we don't get this right?
Everything. My family, my house, everything, my staff. We've been trading for 33 years, and I did vote to leave.
Do you regret that?
I definitely have second thoughts now. Yeah. But
when you voted leave, did you not think, well, this is going to affect my flowers?
I didn't really think about it like that. I didn't really think about the business side of it.
Theresa May's deal seems to be poisoned for every side. So despite the fact I think she has genuinely tried to, find a dividing line and try and make everybody happy, unfortunately for her, I think she's made everybody angry, but I think she should be able to get on with the job. In my mind, Boris in number 10, Jacob Rees-Mogg in number 11, and Nigel Farage at the Foreign Office. How about that?
A strong economy is everything, and it is a fact that our economy will be weaker if we leave and stronger if we stay.
That was David Cameron's last public speech as Prime Minister here at Birmingham University the day before the referendum. I'm heading to meet a businessman just outside of Birmingham who believes David Cameron's warnings were well-founded. Greg MacDonald's company makes plastic parts for the automotive industry. He trades a lot with Europe. His views about Brexit didn't always match the views of his workers.
I wrote to our employees and I said to them that the effects of voting for Brexit, i.e. the effects of a Brexit, would be detrimental to our business, and I told them therefore that it would not be good for jobs.
Was your advice heeded?
Absolutely not.
Most workers, not all, ended up voting to leave.
How did you vote in the referendum?
To come out.
You voted to leave?
Yes.
And why did you vote to leave?
Well, it was mainly by the government, especially Boris Johnson, saying we were going to be better off with the NHS. And it hasn't.
The £350 million
yeah,
a week promise.
Which never happened.
I understand your boss wrote a letter before the referendum saying,
yes.
I would like you to vote Remain.
Yes.
Why did you, you're perfectly entitled to,
why
did you go against that advice?
Well, I never took his advice, you know, it was a pinch of salt really.
Are you worried about your job?
Yeah, of course I am, because pay mortgage, you know what I mean, pay my bills at home, and, you know what I mean, so that's what it's all about. And Greg, at the moment, Greg's doing a really good job of trying to help us all out.
So, you mentioned Brexit there. How did you vote?
I voted staying.
You voted staying?
Yeah.
And I know Greg wrote a letter to the staff.
Yeah, he did, yeah, he did explain, like, to, if we didn't vote to stay in, we could lose our jobs.
My instinct is to not have all my investment in Brexit land and to move over to Central and Eastern Europe as a conduit for doing business in Europe. The waters are going to be choppy, and I don't think business is encouraged to make investment in choppy waters. They would rather go and invest in other countries, for example in the Eurozone. I said to them, well, you voted that way, so if it doesn't go well, you know, who have you got to blame?
Breaking news this hour, a vote of no confidence has now been triggered on Theresa May's leadership.
I've come 170 miles west to Wales, and I've come here because it has something that's critical to trade, the economy and the supply of goods. A port. A no-deal Brexit could see increased checks at ports like Holyhead. 80% of Irish lorries heading for the continent pass through Welsh ports. Checks here could be bad for business.
Holyhead is such a crucial trading port. 500,000 lorries pass through here each year. It's massive. I'm really interested to find out what people think about Brexit and how they think their lives might be changed if we leave without a decent deal.
Anglesey was pretty much split down the middle in the referendum vote, but the Leaves won it, but only just. Talk in the truck stop here is about the future.
Cooked medium, well done. Medium, cooked medium.
I don't think it's going to affect the lads in the lorries or the lads in the trade. But I just want it to get on with it now. It's taken a long, long time, isn't it? You know, I think it's just a big mess, to be honest with you. So we're just, you know, we're all waiting, aren't we? You know, for the big day in March. So
it's just scaremongering in my eyes. You know, they're afraid of the unknown. But we were Great Britain before we entered Europe, weren't we? So why can't it be? Again, why do we have to pay all that money into Europe and not get what we paid back?
She wasn't a Brexit, she was a Remainer. So how can you have a Remainer striking a deal,
a better deal
to come out? That doesn't work.
You must have that movement of trucks. I couldn't have the same truck sitting here for a length of time. Also, would the Irish companies then decide to move on to somewhere else and bypass Britain to get in? That's another question.
The fear is that happens, and that Holyhead goes from being one of the busiest ports in the UK to actually being bypassed. That would not be good, would it?
Certainly not for here, not for the port of Holyhead, not for our business, and not for Anglesey at all.
In the next leg of my journey, I'm heading to Ireland, an EU nation that stands to lose a lot from a bad Brexit.
If the British people don't reach an agreement, they will be much worse off for the next 10 years.
And we fly into a storm on Shetland. An island split by Brexit.
We're surrounded by foreigners from loads of different nations and taking more fish out of the waters than we're allowed to.
You couldn't be more linked to the EU.
We're very much linked to the EU and it needs to stay like that.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Captain, John Hanley-Jones speaking.
Now I'm heading to Ireland via the ferry from Holyhead. This is a major trade route from Ireland to the EU. Brexit has the potential to really disrupt the flow here.
Keywords, adventurer, many thanks, that's us clear now. The evening crossings are very popular. For the freight pieces, usually about 200 to 250 pieces of freight on those crossings.
And what would the route be if you bypassed the UK altogether and you had to go from Ireland straight to the continent? Well,
that would take much longer, right?
It would take a lot longer. It would take probably about 24 hours, 18 to 24 hours. But it's very weather dependent in the southwest approaches. The weather's really, really bad, and in the winter you could be holed up for a couple of days trying to get round that route. Steer 290, please. Midships the wheel, please.
So a route bypassing the UK and heading direct to the continent would be 3 times as long.
It's here in the Irish Sea that the complexities of Brexit become clear. At the moment, trade passes from the UK to Ireland and back unhindered. But after 2.5 years of negotiation, no one can agree what this crossing and others might look like after we leave the EU. And that is a big problem.
The Prime Minister's in Brussels for more Brexit talks after winning a vote of confidence. Her victory means she can't be challenged again for a year. Labour says Mrs May now needs to hold votes in Parliament.
It's early evening in Dublin. The lorries waste no time disembarking. It looks easy, no customs checks. If we leave without a deal, it could be a different story. Especially as the UK government is warning businesses to prepare for the worst.
Verona, nice to see
Hi,
you.
Nick, how
Thank
you
you
doing?
for joining me tonight.
And you too.
Verona Murphy doesn't mince her words. She's a haulier. She used to drive lorries, and now she represents the industry.
I'm a haulier in Ireland for 27 years, and I work mainly from Ireland to Italy, carrying a beef product and absolutely fruit and veg, quite often back to the UK and then from the UK to Ireland. You can see how busy it is here. We have 4 ships leaving here for Heysham, Liverpool and 2 to Holyhead. It takes a huge amount of traffic, but it also brings the product for the UK supermarket chains here in Ireland, of which there are many. Look, it is a link that cannot be broken. If we have Brexit, we're going to have huge disruption. We're going to have huge loss in business, but it will recover. But I do not see that it will recover for the British people, who will find it very, very difficult. If the British people don't reach an agreement, they will be much worse off for the next 10 years than they even anticipate. I don't think they really understand what Brexit means. It means queues in airports, queues at ports. You can no longer just decide you want to go somewhere because you're not an EU citizen. You may require a visa. Everything has to be thought out.
But your industry on this side of the Irish Channel would say that, because you're faced with huge losses. I mean, where are you going to send your lorries if you can't go through the UK? You're going to have to go direct to the continent.
But you must remember, we're a country that produces over 25 million people's food. I think the problem in the UK is that you have the MPs playing politics and not giving real thought to how the people of Britain will be affected.
Welcome back to Morning Ireland. It's 13 minutes past 8. Well, yesterday the British Prime Minister Theresa May went to Brussels to try to secure concessions that
I've
would
come to
help
the heart of one of the big Brexit headaches, the Irish border. To prevent checks here, the UK government came up with a way of avoiding it. It's called the backstop. It would mean Northern Ireland would stay aligned to some rules of the EU single market if other solutions can't be found by the end of the transition period in December 2020. Many here want a backstop.
I'm off to meet a businessman who's really worried about the prospect of a hard border here. So much so that he's taken some quite drastic action to protect his business in the event of that happening. Here he is here. Don, how are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
This is Don Reddin, and his business sits right on the border. And when I say right on the border, I mean it.
I bought a yard adjacent to our yard in Donegal, which is actually in Northern Ireland, in the UK, and we've set up a completely separate company in Northern Ireland who, in case Brexit would happen.
So this way is
That's
the Republic of Ireland?
Yeah, if you go out there, you're in the EU, Republic of Ireland.
And this way
is
the UK?
Our gateway into the UK.
So you've got 2 gates to this yard?
Yes.
Just in case?
Just in case.
Show me around, let's have a chat. So where we're going?
I'll be able to show you the border crossing.
The border runs right through the middle of Don's land, and he's taking advantage of that.
Oh, so you've actually built...
We've done the job.
A new road?
A new road.
Into the UK?
This here was just wasteland.
So we're crossing the border now?
Don has two of everything now.
The bridge is the border.
So one entrance at the side into the Republic of Ireland.
Yes.
This entrance at the back into the UK gives you the best of both worlds.
It's access to both markets.
And what will it mean you can do?
Well, it means we can trade in Europe as we are, and it means that if there is a hard border or a hard Brexit, that we are already in the UK.
So when are we in the UK?
You're about to cross the river. We had to build the bridge as well. Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, UK. I called it the bridge over troubled water.
Do you have faith in the UK government to find a way through so that you don't need to do this?
Hopefully. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I'm hoping on the 11th hour someone's going to shock me, and this has been the plan all along, and they'll come up with a real good deal, and everyone will be happy.
How likely do you think that is?
I'm an optimist, hopefully.
You have to be an optimist, don't you?
Hopefully.
You have to be an optimist.
Well, I'm hoping, because it's not over yet.
Theresa May believes it's still possible to get the assurances from Europe that MPs need.
Don's not alone with his concerns. For those who were brought up during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, a return to custom checks on the border would be a huge step back.
This is what's stopping everything now, this backstop.
I'm meeting Elaine Doherty in Derry. She's been campaigning to avoid a hard border.
You know, what actually are the details of a hard Brexit? Can someone write down in a list what exactly will happen? My concern is that we would have borders again, and that, you know, it would affect our everyday life and the way we work here and the way we live here. I think particularly that borders are very disruptive. They disrupt the social fabric of life, they will disrupt the economy and the trade as well. I think they're very divisive also, and they divide people, they divide families, and they also divide land. It's quite unique in what we've experienced in the past, and it's quite fragile also.
One of Theresa May's top team is warning the country will face serious trouble if MPs from
Shetland
all parties...
is the most northerly tip of the UK. It's closer to Oslo than London. The fishermen here are watching Westminster as closely as they watch the weather. Brexit means getting out of the common fisheries policy, which would give the UK control of how much fish can be caught and who can access its waters. I've come to Scalloway, the ancient capital of this island, but not everyone's against Brexit here.
This is all refrigerated, yeah.
Robert Williamson runs a shellfish processors.
And this is coming into the factory floor where we...
He's just had £250,000 from the EU to build new premises.
What are your big concerns out of all of this?
Well, our biggest concern is just the uncertainty of what is actually going to happen, whether it's a hard Brexit or a deal, but if things is made more difficult, that impacts our business.
What would the next day trading look like if we crashed out without a deal for you?
It's very difficult to say, because at this moment we're 2 months away from possibly crashing out, and we still don't know.
It's crazy, isn't it?
We don't know what the effect is going to be, and that's very worrying.
So all of this, you know, this was made happen through EU money. You've got an EU workforce. You couldn't be more linked to the EU.
We're very much linked to the EU, and it needs to stay like that.
Is this starting to keep you awake at night?
No.
Not got to that stage
Not got
yet?
to that stage yet. There's not much we can do about it at the moment. That's also the worrying thing. We just need to wait and see what happens with the politicians.
Do you have faith in them?
Not really.
If you could speak to the Prime Minister, what would you say to her?
That we need to have a deal that doesn't make things any more difficult than what they are at the moment.
Does she get it, do you think? Do you think she understands that?
I actually think she does, to be honest.
As light falls over Shetland, I'm off to meet a fisherman who says Brexit offers a fairer future for him and his family.
Gary, Nick.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
This is yours.
Yeah.
Come on board, yeah, come on board.
Gary Smith has been a fisherman for more than 30 years.
I voted for Brexit basically to hopefully secure a better future for our fishing industry here in Shetland. We're surrounded by foreigners from loads of different nations. They're catching far more fish and taking more fish out of the waters than we're allowed to. The Common Fisheries Policy tells us that if we catch too much of a certain species, we've got to throw them back in the sea dead. It's wrong. That's why I voted for Brexit.
Do you have faith in the Prime Minister, in the government, to pull this deal off, the kind of deal that you voted for?
No, not at all, no. I think she's too hung up on the Irish border, she's too hung up on trade deals and immigration and stuff. The fishing is nothing to her.
The government now warns that preparation for a no-deal Brexit must get underway. They say it's a precaution. The people I met remain split.
I don't really know how we're going to get out of this muddle, but some way we'll find a way, and I suspect it's not going to be, we're not going to be in a better position afterwards than we were before the vote.
Some form of deal that secures our future.
It's a huge mess. It's chaotic, and I think, unfortunately, politics in the UK is chaotic.
Is the worry-ometer starting to rise?
I think businesses need to, it is serious now.
The new year will bring a new vote, and a new chapter for Britain, for good or ill, will be opened.